Bom dia. So I thought I'd put together a bit of an outline of what exactly it is that I do. Because if you look at what I put up on social media, you'll find that there are a couple of themes, but they don't necessarily seem to always fit together. But in this, I'm going to show you that they are actually part of a process. They're part of a reasoning as to how to get things happening in your own life and how to shift things when you know that things just don't feel right. You know, you might have built a whole lot of success. You might have ticked off all of the boxes that you know that you should have done. Like, you know, built a career, had a family, have a family. Live in the big old house with the nice car, you know, ticking all of the boxes, all the things that we are supposed to count as success. And yet, you just don't feel quite right. Something's missing, you know. You've got this uneasy feeling in your gut. So that's actually what I help people deal with, that uneasy feeling, and figure out what changes, if any, need to actually be made to help bring that spark back to their life. So here's the process. I'm a visual guy, so I like to have drawings and notes wherever I can. So I've drawn them out and we'll go through them. So the first one is that we need to deal with is dealing with fear. Fear is the one thing that stops us from stepping into our true selves, the version of yourself that you know you could be, except that all these other things are holding you back. The one thing that's holding you back is fear. So it sounds quite quaint to just go, oh, well, just deal with your fear and go ahead and do it. It's not always as easy as that, especially considering fear. It's an evolutionary thing. We have fear, which in the past has been there to protect ourselves. It's there to stop us doing silly things that, you know, get us booted out of the tribe. Because if you do, that's it. You're pretty much done. You're on your own and you need the tribe to stay safe. The world is a lot safer. We've evolved, but we still have that fear reaction. We still have that part of ourselves that holds ourselves back because of fear. So first step is you need to deal with that fear. Second step is once you've dealt with that fear, you need to figure out what's really important to you. All right. So it's kind of like getting on a plane and heading off. You can go in any direction and you'll get somewhere. But if you know what's important to you, you know that you're wanting to go from Melbourne to Sydney or from San Francisco to New York. Without knowing where the destination is, without knowing what's important, you could end up anywhere. And who knows if that's going to be better off than where you started off. So we need to know what's important, why it's important, and what direction you need to head off. Thirdly, all right, so I've written quantum pretty much because oneness, again, sounded a little bit too quaint. This whole section is about realizing that there is nothing separate to us. Once you've gotten rid of the fear and figured out what's important to you, we're able to go, hang on, all right, so if everything is energy and now the fear that I had isn't holding me back, who can I be? Who can I create? And there's a whole lot of space there. There's an openness once we're free of that fear. And you get to create any version of yourself that you want, which is the most liberating thing in the world. It's a big part of why my wife and I, we packed up our lives. We shut down our business. We took the kids out of school and sold all of our things and moved them from Southeast Australia to the furthest point in the world that we could get, pretty much, which is southern Portugal, where we live at the beach. We live in a postcard, picture perfect tourist haven. but we're making some amazing friends, and we're creating this life that we couldn't have created in Australia. Why? Because we had that breakthrough of our fear. We realized what was important to us, and this move was part of fulfilling those things that are important to us. And knowing that everything is connected helped us to be able to make these changes with complete faith in the outcome going just how it needs to go. All right, so the next one, once we've got that connection with the wholeness, we do need a plan. We do need a strategy. We need, the values helps us to figure out what's important. Now we need to figure out where exactly is that going? Where are you going to go? And how are you going to get there? How do you know you're on the right path? What are you going to do when the obstacles come up? Because even though you might be working without the fear, even though you might be working as part of the wholeness, there are still going to be obstacles. What will you do when you reach them? That's the fourth part. And then the final part, PTC stands for present time consciousness. Present time consciousness is one of these things that chiropractors often talk about. The best way to practice with your clients is as if you are only here right now. There is nothing happening in the past. There's nothing happening in the future. You are right here, right now. And it's the same thing with meditation. That's a practice of bringing you into now. And it's only through being present in the now that you really get a chance to become the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Because if you're too caught up in the past, or if you're too caught up in the future, you're missing right now. And right now goes on forever, because it's always right here. And then to go with that one is feeling. Now, feeling is the magnet. It is what attracts those experiences into your life. You can think, you can plan, you can make all of these strategies and the habits, but the feeling that comes from here, not here, is what brings these experiences into your life. It's what attracts the things that you're after. It's also part of the richness of life. It's part of the richness of becoming who you can become. The experience of having the highs and the lows. That's part of the tapestry. That's part of the quilt. That's part of the patchwork that creates an interesting life. I think what most people hope is that when they reach all their goals, you've heard this before, when you tick off your goals, you're not actually going to be happy. You need to enjoy the journey along the way, right? So it's this tapestry, this patchwork that gives us that fabric. It gives us the experience for us to enjoy, even if it's the positives and the negatives, even if it's the highs and the lows. It's that experience that makes life worth living. I've mentioned this a couple of times in a number of different podcasts, and it's just the most perfect example. In The Wheel of Time, a book series, it's an epic book series, but the antagonist, the enemy, shows the hero two versions of hell. The first one is what you would expect. It's a version of hell that is in their real world, where all the people in this experience are completely untrustworthy. They are out for themselves. They have no consciences. They will betray their own children for anything that they want. and it's horrible. The other version of this hell is when there is none of that. When it is everyone is completely happy. Everyone has everything they want, overly moral, overly ethical, and they're walking around like zombies. Because that balance between good and bad, that tension between the two, is what gives you this rich experience. It's the whole idea of the yin and the yang. Within the dark part, there's the white dot, and within the light part, there's the black dot. You cannot have one without the other. If you have one and not the other, either way, it doesn't work. So this feeling is part of this whole experience of building and becoming the best version of yourself you can be. And again, in spiritual circles or self-development circles, we tend to find that the people who grow so much, they develop. You see them leveling up again and again and again and again. And a lot of the time, the problems that come their way tend to be even bigger than what they started with. But as always, that's not the important part. It's how you respond to those issues. As you grow and as you develop, the problems don't necessarily get smaller. You just become bigger to be able to handle those problems. And they don't necessarily seem like that big a deal. If you talk to a billionaire, most of the time they are really handling big problems. But because they've grown, the problems don't seem that big to them. Why? Because they've grown and they've gotten used to dealing with this problem and this one and this one. So this next problem is just the next one in a series. So they're used to dealing with things. And it's only when we hold back and try and protect ourselves that we think that we're playing it safe. But it means that as we make ourselves smaller, it means that all the problems actually seem bigger. So when you say no to new experiences, you keep yourself small and the problems seem big. As you say yes to new experiences, as you say yes to growth and challenging yourself and growing, that's when you get the breakthroughs. That's when you get to step up to the next level. That's when the problems get bigger, but you do too. So this is the process that we work through with my work. Most people that come to me, they're starting with fear or their values, figuring out what is holding them back and what's important to them. Once we've got that sorted, then we can move forward to really creating something that is inspiring to them and to their friends. These kinds of breakthroughs are the sorts of thing where friends and family barely recognize you because you're not the same person you were 6 months ago. And nor should you be. We should all be growing. But this is the work that I get to do with my clients.